Good evening and welcome to Up South for all the top news stories from South India. Over the next half hour, we will be cutting across live to our reporters in Chennai, Hyderabad and Thiruvananthapuram for all the top news stories from the region. Our top story today is from Bangalore, where school management seem to be reluctant to implement all the guidelines that the Bangalore Police and the Education Department of the Government of Karnataka wanted them to do after the rape of a 6-year-old child inside a school in Bangalore in July this year. They say that the schools have to bear the cost, and that's something the school managements are reluctant to. Ratnika Sharma reports on the standoff between the school managements and the Bangalore Police.
As the deadline to implement guidelines issued by Education Department comes closer, private schools in Bangalore are up in arms, demanding an extension of the deadline. Claiming that Police and Education Department has turned a deaf ear to their pleas, the organization has filed a petition in the court.
We have filed a petition in front of the court, and let us see what happens and when it comes out. So this is uninevitable circumstances, because 30th being the last date, and you can't file a case against the thing because there are practical difficulties. It is not only about CC camera and GPRS, there are other guidelines which are impractical.
Representatives of various schools are upset with the added pressure that the guidelines will put on their pockets.
So we've just gathered here to resolve our immediate issues. Yeah, we are facing a lot of difficulties in terms of procuring the resources required, because a set of rules and guidelines have been given to all private schools, and we are trying to abide by them.
Government could give us some more time, and if this could be in stage wise, all the schools might be able to do it one after the other. And I think all the schools are not financially sound enough to implement all this at a time.
Measures that were prescribed by the police department were in the interest of the safety of the children. Because the responsibility rests with the school administration to make sure that the children are safe as long as they are inside the school.
Just when the deadline comes close, the schools have woken up and realized that they won't be able to meet it. In the tussle between different stakeholders, what should matter is the safety of our children. With Ratnika Sharma, Bureau Report, Headlines Today.
Is the Kerala government pouring cold water over prospects of a dry Kerala? That's what those agitating for total prohibition seem to think so, with beer and wine exempt from the ban on liquor in Kerala. Meanwhile, the Kerala government believes that it has taken huge political courage for them to actually implement prohibition in the state in a phased manner. Rohini Swami reports from Thiruvananthapuram.
After letting the country believe that Kerala was on its way to become God's own dry country, the Oommen Chandy government now seems to be diluting the heady feeling. Some alcohol will flow in the state after all. As a first step, beer and wine parlours have been exempted from the move towards phased prohibition.
Clubs we have not decided. UDF meeting, latest meeting, taken decision on bar hotels only.
State has its own uniqueness.
Social activists blame it on the political pressure that the UDF government has been under ever since its decision last week.
That might be a softening of stand by them, as far as I know from you. But the broader point would be, everybody knows that Kerala is having a huge alcoholism problem, and especially the lower class and lower middle class is devastated by it. And liberalism cannot be the only yardstick by which, individual choice cannot be the only yardstick by which you can judge all these things. But these things, again, we would say this is again a balance.
This is an allegation the Chief Minister refutes, making a distinction between different brands of liquor.
We took a very strong stand on that day, and all the bars, that number up to 730, those are closed and opened, both, about 730. So we have decided not to allow them to continue.
On the 12th of September, 5 days after Onam, when liquor consumption peaks in Kerala, the fate of all 712 bars in the state will be sealed. That is when the Akbari policy as the liquor policy is called, will become a government order.
One of the major challenges in front of the Oommen Chandy government is how they're going to make up for the 9,000 crore revenue loss that they used to generate from liquor excise. Not just that, the Kerala government will have to reinvent itself to attract more people to God's own country, or else the image of the state will take a beating. With Cameraman Abhilash Rohini Swami in Thiruvananthapuram for Headlines Today.
Joining me now from Hyderabad is Dr. Jayaprakash Narayan, former IAS officer. Also, Rohini Swami joins me from Thiruvananthapuram. Dr. Jayaprakash Narayan, you were part of N.T. Ramarao's Chief Minister's office in the 90s when the decision to impose prohibition was taken. Now, when you look at how Kerala has gone about this decision to impose prohibition in a phased manner, do you think lessons have been learnt from the Andhra Pradesh experiment?
So, there is no doubt that liquor consumption has gone up dramatically in all parts of the country, and we have to do something about it. At the same time, imposing prohibition is not really a solution, as it has been proved time and again in the country and across the world. So Kerala is doing it in a gradual fashion. Their basic approach appears to be, from what I understand, A, reducing or minimizing public consumption of liquor. That means closing down all the bars. But they have not prohibited sale of liquor. They only reduced the number of selling days. They increased the number of dry days, about 68 or so in a year. B, recognizing that there is a serious problem of addiction and finding some mechanisms for de-addiction, spending 1% of the money and reducing the consumption rather than merely having loss itself. So I think this kind of a gradual approach is necessary, and we all must very closely follow what's happened in Kerala and to what extent we can do something similar in the rest of the country.
Right, Dr. Narayan, stay on with us. Rohini, this decision to dilute the ban, which many people say are not very happy about, is this being seen as not a very blanket ban on liquor as far as Kerala is concerned?
Well, what the UDF government, especially the Kerala Chief Minister, has been saying, this is a very tough stand they have taken. But moreover, the fact that they have left out beer and wine parlours and clubs as of now is obviously showing that the UDF government is soft peddling this whole issue. At the same time, they also have another thing which they need to look into, whether this decision that they have taken of prohibition of liquor, that in a phased manner over 10 years, whether that will help the UDF, whether they will be able to get as many votes as possible, because at the end of the day, though they say it's not a political game, definitely this is to appease the voters.
Right, Rohini. Dr. Narayan, you said that the prohibition as a policy is not a sustainable policy. Does Kerala face the risk of spurious forms of liquor flooding the market, and that could endanger the lives of many drinkers there in Kerala?
Across the world, that has been the experience. And in India too, Gujarat is the only state that actually continued its prohibition. All states otherwise attempted prohibition initially and they gave it up. Many people believe, in fact, there are many books written. An Era of Excess is a book, for instance, about American prohibition days that led to the rise of mafia and illicit distillation, the crime and so on and so forth. Therefore, when it is really a part of the food stuffs and the part of the lifestyle, and particularly in the modern era, when westernization and therefore increased consumption of liquor, even by young people, has now become the norm, it may not be the best way. But definitely public consumption must be scrupulously regulated, and any kind of an offence, even minor driving offences under the influence of alcohol, must be very strictly dealt with. And people must have a say, particularly rural communities and poor communities must have a say whether or not there should be a shop in their neighbourhood, and they must have a say in regulation of liquor, and there must be serious de-addiction program. If you take up that kind of a very graduated, very calibrated, practical program, I think the real purpose will be accomplished.
Right. Right, Dr. Narayan, thanks a lot for joining us with that perspective from Hyderabad. Rohini Swami, also thank you very much for that, for all those details from Thiruvananthapuram on this decision to impose phased prohibition in Kerala over the next 10 years. Now, what's happening at Chennai airport, you would wonder, because for the second time in 3 days, a hoax bomb call has been found at the Chennai airport, talking about a human bomb that would explode there at the airport premises. In fact, the office of the director of Chennai airport received a call at around 5:30 this morning stating that a human bomb would explode there. But the call turned out to be a hoax, and on August 25, a similar call was received at the airport. Police said special teams had traced the previous threat call to Nagapattinam in Tamil Nadu and are camping there to zero in on the culprit. Joining me now from Chennai is my colleague Shrisha Reddy. What are your sources in the intelligence department telling you, Shrisha? Are they drawing some kind of a pattern between these two phone calls which the office has received at Chennai airport within just 3 days?
Well, Sudhir, there don't seem to be a pattern to this particular call because these are two calls in less than 3 days is something that is, it has never happened before. And there have been hoax calls in the past, but this is something different is what the intelligence sources are telling headlines today. On the other hand, as you also clearly pointed out, because this call had come to the office of the airport director, and which did not have a caller ID, is also one of the drawbacks that they were not able to trace from which part of the place this call had come. And then again, with the help of the other officials, they traced it in Nagapattinam. But again, the officials, the central agencies had already given a red alert to the south states, including Tamil Nadu and Chennai airport, saying that they were fearing that Pakistan-backed terrorists might sneak peek into the Chennai airport and other airports. And this also came as soon as there was a blast in the Chennai central station on the 1st of May. So everything now, the security has been beefed up. So people are on high alert.
Right. Shrisha, also briefly, has security been beefed up at the Chennai airport because Tamil Nadu has been on the terror radar for quite some time?
Well, exactly. The security has been put in place in entry and the exit posts. At least 9 places they have beefed up the security. They have deployed several police personnel in the entrance and the exit gates in both the domestic and the international airport to avoid any untoward incidents. As you also pointed out that there have been such hoax calls even in the past, and this time something that is happening in less than 3 days time and 2 hoax calls back to back is something that is puts them on high alert.
Right. Thanks a lot, Shrisha, for all those details there from Chennai on the Chennai airport. Now, in a scene straight out of an Indian film, here are pictures of rowdy sheeter Yadagiri Rao, who is an under trial at the high security Chedlapalli Central Prison in Hyderabad. Now, you see him there talking on the cell phones, and these are pictures clicked by another inmate also lodged inside the Chedlapalli prison. He was arrested in September 2012 in the Gali Janardhan Reddy bail scam case, wherein he was accused of mediating a deal between the mining baron and a CBI judge for securing bail for Gali Janardhan Reddy. And this is what the DG Prisons of Telangana had to say.
Source of photographs, this is very simple thing. Like suppose there are 2 criminals having mobile, then one fellow can take a photograph. So that doesn't, I don't think that is such a serious thing. Rates like we could get mobile phones, SIM cards, pen drives, a very small amount of ganjai, so something like that.
Joining me now is Pratibha Raman from Hyderabad, who has been reporting on that story. Pratibha, one would think that high security jail would have jammers in place, but this person seemed to have no problem with his signals there inside the Chedlapalli Central Prison.
Well, Sudhir, number one, to start with, these particular prisons like Chanchalguda jail or the Chedlapalli ones are really huge. So the installation of jammers in these places would work out to be an extremely costly affair. And the state government has been mulling this issue for quite some time now. So the jail authorities seem to think that the jammers wouldn't really be the idea that are taking it forward as of now. Plus the inconvenience that it would cause to the residential neighborhoods in and around that prison. That is also a cause of concern for the jail authorities. But then the fact remains that life still remains the same for all these convicts who are inside these prisons, who seem to be just vacationing out there and running their own businesses like nothing has happened to them. So that is the condition of these jails, because they seem to be having easy access to technology, right from pen drives to cell phones to SIM cards that have been retrieved here.
We come to the end of Up South this evening. News and updates will continue on Headlines Today.